Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Guys, listen, you know how we do it here on this show. And all of my, hey guys, listen, I'm glad that you're back with me. We have a dynamic guest with us this afternoon in the person of Dr. Jerri Johnson. Now, guys, we're going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson is going to be sharing more with you, obviously, about herself. And as you guys know, this show is about education and education curriculum and the importance of curriculum in any educational setting. But let's talk a little bit about Dr. Jerri Johnson here. Dr. Jerri Johnson is currently the Director of Education for the Community Impact Network, a nonprofit organization that is place-based within the Normandy footprint in St. Louis, Missouri. In the field of education, Dr. Johnson most recently served as a Director of Early Childhood Programs for the Normandy Schools Collaborative. She has held the position of District English Language Arts Supervisor, Principal, Assistant Principal, Instructional Coach, Reading Specialist, and was a classroom teacher at various grade levels. She has also taught at the post-secondary level, serving as an adjunct professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis. Dr. Johnson earned her bachelor's degree from Harris Stowe State University in elementary education. She earned the following advanced degrees at the University of Missouri St. Louis: master's in educational specialist degrees in education, a doctorate degree in education with an emphasis in teaching and learning. Dr. Johnson is a member of the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development, International Literacy Association, and National Council of Social Studies. So guys, as you can see, we have a very interesting young lady with us this afternoon. And you know, you can always feel free to ask questions, just put them in the chat box, and then we'll take it from there. Dr. Johnson, good afternoon.
Good evening.
I'm so happy to have you on the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. And you know, we all know with the state of education and the way things are rolling, they are very challenging. However, if you share a little bit more with us about Dr. Jerri Johnson, just a tidbit, you know, where you're from and things of that nature, and we'll keep it moving.
Well, my home is, well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me today. This is absolutely my thing, and I love talking to people about education, especially K-12 education. I've been in it. I was in it about 21 years before I stepped out to go into nonprofit, and I'm happy to say that I'm going back into K-12 education this coming school year. So that is something to be announced, but it is a fantastic opportunity that I decided to take to go back into school administration. So it's something totally new, something totally different for the district that I'm going to be going back into. And it's my district that I graduated from. So I'm happy to be home and back in the school district that basically created me. So thank you again for having me tonight. I am, as I said, a 22-year educator, I now work in nonprofits. However, education has always been in my heart. So my mom, I have a twin sister who actually was a federal prosecutor, and she's on the legal end where I'm trying to keep kids from her. So when I told my mom that my mom wanted a doctor and she wanted a lawyer, when I told my mom that I was going to be a teacher, she almost fell through the floor. She was, you're not going to make any money. But
you're going to save so many lives.
Right.
You're going to save so many lives.
Exactly.
Money is not a discussion.
Exactly. It's not. It never was at the forefront of my mind. It was always making an impact. And I always loved being around kids, especially the bad ones. And it was just something that I just naturally went and did. So I changed my major at St. Louis University when I started, from physical therapy to education, went down the street to the HBCU, Harris Stowe, and finished out my education at Harris Stowe State University. So, and I'm here today as a doctor.
Hey, well, listen, fantastic, because your mom still got her doctor. And right. Please allow me to say, without stepping out of line, is that education is a field that's so rich, and we need people that are dedicated and really understand what it's all about. And I know it's great that you're going back home. Just before we went on the air, I was asking you about Dr. George McKenna. Dr. McKenna, and for our listening audience, they are well familiar with him because they hear me talk about him all the time. But Dr. George McKenna was the principal at Washington Preparatory High School in Los Angeles. And of course, it's the California version of Lean on Me.
Oh.
The George McKenna story aired in 1986. Denzel Washington played the part of my boss. I had the privilege and the pleasure to sit at the guru's feet.
Oh, wow.
And so let me share with you, I understand fully, as you talk about your mom being disappointed and you not been a medical doctor. I was disappointed because I thought my plight was to be an NFL superstar.
Oh.
And little did I know, everything kept directing me right back to education. And so just let me say that it's wonderful. You are to be saluted that you have undertaken this journey, because this is definitely something that takes special people and special kinds of people to make this thing happen. So please allow me to salute you. And you're getting, and you can't see them, but you're getting a bunch of thumbs up and hearts going up over here.
Nice.
So I was happy. Yeah, but listen,
Thank you.
when we talk about education, dare I say, non-sarcastically, everybody think they can do it. And everybody think they can do it. Ask Bessie DeVos. And maybe I should. Everybody thinks they know. Yeah, everybody thinks they know best. And it's amazing how they fall flat on their faces and never admit it. So with you being an educator and being a PhD, no less, and you're returning back to your home school and looking at your information here and what you've explained, you've worked at all levels, at the early level, at the high school level, and now you're returning back, etc. When we talk to parents about academics, how important is it to make clear the understanding and the impetus as it relates to curriculum with their child, regardless of grade level?
I think it's very important. The biggest thing that I've had and biggest conversations that I've had with parents is about behavior, simply because we can't get to the academics until we calm down or take care of the behavior. So the SEL, or the socio-emotional learning piece, has been big for me in speaking with parents about first, and then we can start to talk about the curricular expectations, what it is your child is supposed to be learning in a classroom. So we move quickly pretty much past the behavior piece, because that's something that we work on at the school level daily. They go home and they spend time, and it undoes most of the stuff that we do, during the day, and we still have to come back and we still have to deal with that behavior, and that's fine. We work alongside parents with doing that, but the curricular piece, they really need to understand as well. So in schools that I have led, we've had those nights, those curriculum nights, where parents can come and they can walk through a classroom or walk through their child's schedule, in their classroom for that day. The teacher shows them what they do, the transitions that they have and things like that, the expectations. And then they go through maybe an activity or two with them to see what their child experiences in the classroom on a daily basis with that teacher. It really helps them to see a lot better when they experience it and go through it, what the high level of expectations kids have nowadays in a classroom. Things that we were probably doing in kindergarten or second grade, our kindergartners are doing now. Things that we were doing in kindergarten, the preschoolers are doing now. So it's just like they don't know if they haven't been there for so long. And like you said, some people think that they can do it. That old saying, if you can't, you can teach. No, that's not going to happen nowadays. I have seen grown men run out of classrooms with fourth graders, crying. So And I'm sitting up here, this little 5'5", woman going to an 8th grade classroom, like, what are you all doing? What are you doing? Or a 4th grade classroom. So, I think it's very important for us to partner with parents in them understanding that, because they don't get it because they haven't been there so long. And it's a frustration on a lot of educators' parts, because many times we are so pressured to do everything, and then we're not good at anything, and we put that pressure on parents. We do. We transfer that pressure to parents. But we have to step back for a second as educators, and we have to think about what it's like to be in that parent's shoes. Because I have a child, and some teachers don't. That's fine. I'm not saying you have to have a child to be a good educator, but to have a child in your home every day and go through the educational system with them, knowing that what they're doing, like my daughter, what she's doing is higher than right now as a freshman in college than what I was doing in high school, and I'm just like, baby, I'm sorry, I can't help. You're gonna have to ask the professor. And I was an adjunct professor, so it's I think it's very important to understand that the partnership and the parents understanding what the expectations are as far as curriculum is paramount. You have to start talking to parents. You just have to start talking to parents. You have to start partnering with parents and getting them out and getting them to the school, making your environment at the school or in the district inviting, because a lot of them have had some school traumas that we don't necessarily know about until their child gets in trouble. Then they start talking about, when I was little, da, 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 da. So making the school inviting enough for parents to be comfortable enough to come up to those types of nights, or comfortable enough to come up and talk to somebody and understand the expectations of what's going on. I also would require my teachers at parent-teacher conference time to talk about what the expectations were for the upcoming quarter, so that they know this is what we covered up until this point, but mom and dad, they're going to be expected to do X, Y, and Z, the next time I see you, or by January. So having principals or administrators having those conversations with teachers about communicating those to parents whenever you get a chance to talk to them. Communicate academic expectations as well as behavior expectations. Because most of the time they just want to call about behavior. That's not going to work, because behavior is going to affect the academics. So you got to talk about both of them together. It's extremely important.
Absolutely. Dr. Johnson, you are my kind of peoples. Because as you share that wow, see, you are hitting all of the buttons, because, and I don't need to repeat what you've said, but that was one of my biggest frustrations with some of my academic colleagues, is that they couldn't get past the point is that it's not about you, but given the proper attitude, it can be because of you. And they would use every excuse in the book, blame the parents and all of that, instead of doing just what you've just said. And that in itself, that I know people generically say about things being priceless, but that's priceless. So with that stated, as you talk about the marriage of the academic piece and the disciplinary sectors, when we are working with our children, do you find it difficult sometimes for your parents to really understand is that just by saying to a child that, well, you can do better, or I'm going to whip you if you don't come home with a better grade, that kind of thing, that doesn't work? Well, I haven't found it to work. Not holistically, maybe in a few cases.
I always ask them the question, like, did that work with you? Like, because you got that from somewhere. So normally we imitate what we grew up with, right? We imitate what we grew up with. So I always ask, do threats work for you as an adult? Does that work for you? It means much less to a child. They don't get what you're saying. Like they don't get what you're saying unless you're going to go through with it, and then they become immune to it. I mean, some kids I've seen, they get whoopings, but that's how we said it. They get whoopings 20 times a day and just keep walking. You know, that's not going to help. And as an educator, I can't do that. I can't do that to your child. So you know what? I have to figure out other ways to get to them most of the time. So then I teach that to parents, you know, or I tell teachers, tell them what you do in a classroom to get them to do that. And that will help your relationship with them. Maybe they will come to you more, you know, for interventions for their child as far as behavior at home, if they know what you do in a classroom with 20 other kids to get them to calm down. Now, if you can do it with 20 other kids running around, I know they can do it at home, whether it's 1, 2, or 5 siblings, you know? So once again, conversation and relationships are the foundation for anything that goes on in a school. And if you don't have those relationships with parents, in order to have those types of what I say come to Jesus conversations, you know, then that's going to be a problem. And I can't have, as the school principal, I can't have that relationship with them, because then it negates your relationship with them as the classroom teacher. They're with you all day. They're not in my office all day. They're not going to be in my office all day. Yeah, they need to be in the classroom having instruction. So, you know, we're going to have to work together, and I'm going to have to help you get this relationship with this parent together so that we can get this child's behavior together. It takes a team. It takes a team. And they got to know that we're all on the same page. Those idle threats that you do at home, that's not what we can do here. And that's not what we're doing here. So let me tell you what we're doing here that works, what didn't work, and you try these things at home. So, you know, in newsletters, I would send home newsletters every month. My counselor, my social worker would send home parenting tips. We had parenting classes monthly, especially at the early childhood level. We had a monthly parent class. And they would talk about those types of things, you know, what to do to get them to do their homework, or what to do, you know, if they're running around the store, or, you know, make an outing fun, look at numbers, have them spy letters, you know, have them spy words while you're out and things like that. So giving parents those different activities for them to do at home was very helpful as well. We also changed our homework from homework during the week to activities that they could do on the weekend on a little checklist. Then the kids could come back and, I did all these, you know, on Monday, and the teachers had incentives for them to do those activities. And it was always academic, you know, based. So that helped with behavior too. We found on the weekends, when they were at home and just didn't have much to do, or parents were, you know, running errands and things like that. So once again, that partnership with the parents, we always complain that parents don't come out, parents don't do this, parents don't do that. Okay, that's the framework we got to work within. That's just what we got. Okay, so are we going to continue to complain about it, or are we going to do something about it, is the question. And the only thing we can do is try again. But as many times as we try, believe me, we have had more parents come in because we have tried so many times, and positively tried so many times to get them to come to the table to solve problems with us. So it's frustrating. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's frustrating at times, but the outcome is so much more worth it when you do the work up front. When you do the work up front, the end game is usually much more worth it.
Absolutely. You know what? Wow. Powerful information. And as we segue to our next question on what you're talking about right now, when it comes to that relationship building and getting the staff to understand, you know, well, allow me to back up for a minute. As a teacher, a principal, doesn't matter. I hate that phrase that everybody try to use about buying in. That's just me. But when it comes to getting teachers to understand that the importance of that relationship and working with their students, and how you connect the curriculum piece and the disciplinary piece. Have you found it difficult to, have you found, or has it been marginal for the teachers to really accept their role and responsibility in educating our children?
I would say in different settings, it's been different. I myself, as a leader, have had, I would say, some struggles. It hasn't been really bad. I mean, like, it hasn't been to a point of, like, you can't see, but my hair is really short. So it hasn't been to the point of pulling my little hair out that I have in my head. But I will say the biggest thing, Melvin, that I can say is you inspect what you expect and you model the behavior that you want your staff to exhibit. Okay. That has been my biggest thing, is that I always tell my staff, or I call them my colleagues. I don't really call them my staff. So I always tell my colleagues that I wouldn't ask you to do anything that I'm not going to do. So if I ask you to pick up, you see some trash on the floor, can you just pick it up? If I ask you to pick it up, you're going to see me picking up trash off the floor. You might see me mopping the floor one day if a kid, upchucks or spills something or whatever, and the custodian can't get to it quick enough. I mean, it just is what it is. But I try my best as an administrator or as any type of leader, even in a classroom, to model the behavior that I expect from those around me. So I haven't had those situations where it's like pulling hair or pulling teeth. I have had to, write people up. I have had to do those types of things because the professionalism, the level of professionalism is just not where it needs to be. And some people you coach up or you coach out, period. That's the thing for me. And I don't have a problem coaching. I don't have a problem supporting. I don't have a problem getting you to grow. I'm a growth person. That's my purpose. That's just the thing that I know I was made for, is to grow people and grow myself. If I'm somewhere, I'm working up somewhere and I don't feel like I'm growing, I got to go. Like, if I can't learn from you, I really can't work under you. And I don't have a problem serving and working under anybody, but I need to be able to learn from you. So I haven't had those huge issues that I know some of my colleagues have with getting staff to move and understand that we are here for kids, because if they weren't here, we wouldn't have jobs. So which one you want, and when they come every day, that's what we're here for. We're here to serve. And I had a picture on my wall in the office. When parents walked in, when staff walked in, they saw the big, beautiful picture that said customer service. We are here to serve. So that's the way that I would walk around the school. That's the way that I would project myself. Parents come to my office, I say, how may I help you? I don't care if you're there to cuss me out, because I know you're here to say something. How can I help you today? That's the first question I would ask them. So my thing is, I just want people to understand that modeling the behavior that you want others to exhibit is the biggest thing, and if you expect it, you better inspect it and be consistent about the way that you respond to it. Because the minute that you're not consistent, just like with kids, teachers gonna go off and do whatever they want to do, and you need to be consistent with how you respond to certain things when they're not adhering to their expectations. It's not just the kids that have expectations. I mean, it's the staff too. I expected things from my parents. I can't have you walking in here smelling like, you didn't smoke something. You know what I'm saying? Before you walk in here. Sorry, Dad, can't. That's one of our expectations. I can't have you walk to the office. How would you like me to help you this morning? because I'm at the door.
I hear
I can't
you.
have you smelling you like, you know what I'm saying? I can't have you walking through here smelling like that. So you do what you want to do in your personal time, but I can't have you bring that into school around kids and around other parents, because then other parents gonna come to me talking. Did you smell that, Dr. John? You know, I don't. We don't have time for all that.
Well, you
So
know what?
everybody around me knew that there were expectations in behavior and how we conduct ourselves as professionals and the servants that we are.
Wow. Listen, when you get time, I am asking you to look up Dr. George McKenna. He would love
I
you. He
absolutely
would.
will.
I'm telling you, he would love you because I'm loving this. Listen, let's move a little bit to the older children, and I know that our methodologies are the same when it comes to children any age, but I want to touch another little subject. Having been that guy, one of those guys that was allegedly a star athlete and all that kind of thing, whose mother was not impressed, by the way. When you encounter teachers and or parents that seem to forget that the children are there to be educated, and of course we'd like them to be able to enjoy their time in school, but academics is first and foremost.
Mhm.
Have you encountered situations where you've had parents and or teachers that quite honestly expected for you to look the other way, or for the parent to look the other way, or the teacher to look the other way? Have you encountered much of that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Even at the elementary level, they how can I say this? I brought it to a parent one day and I said, if you keep defending the behavior of your son, when he gets older, you're going to have to pay someone to do this. So in other words, he's going to need a public defender, or, a federal defender or whatever, because you keep defending these behaviors that are going on. I understand. I like to have fun at work, but there are certain frameworks and guidelines that I have to have at work that nobody's going to turn their head the other way if I walk in here and, I'm not dressed appropriately. Or if I walk in here and I just start cussing people, cussing my colleagues out. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I'm sorry that, you think that this offense was not, as bad as it could have been. However, we have rules and expectations. There's rules and expectations everywhere. There's a different code, and you have to code switch. And I know you've probably heard that term. There's a different code in every area of your life. On the street corner, I can talk whatever way I want to my friends. At work, I
Right.
can't do that.
Right.
So there's a different code that kids have to learn, that your behavior has to switch. It's not to say that you can't be who you are, but there are different rules and different frameworks in different areas of your life. So I've had to have some tough conversations with some parents and not back down on some things, some decisions that I made. But I'll be honest, I have had to back down a couple of times in my career with the decision that I made, because it may have been too punitive of a punishment, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
However, I think the example needed to be made in certain instances. And it's the same way with staff. Sometimes staff or my colleagues will do certain things, and an example needs to be made, because this is something that I said, this is the expectation, and you just decided to do what you wanted to do. Or this is the school policy, school district policy, and you decided to do what you wanted to do. So now I have to, as your administrator, do what I need to do. So yes, I have had those conversations. Some went good, some went way bad. But in the end, what I will say is that the kids didn't have a problem with it. It was the adults. Like the kids understood
Mm-hmm.
why I had to do what I had to do. You don't
Right.
know why? You want to know why? Because I talked to them. Like I talked to them about why I was doing what I was doing, the reason that what led up to this, because you had 50 chances before this. You can't say this is one and done. You can't say that, you know, and I've warned you of this is what's coming. So when it comes, I want to hear it. And I will say that the kids totally understood. It was the adults that wanted to defend them that did not understand.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I hear you. I hear you. And it seems to be universal. It seems to be universal no matter where you go, no matter
Mm-mm.
where you work. It's just wow. So listen, my question is somewhat, well, I know it's a loaded question. So let me warn you up front. It's a loaded question. When you have to give advice to parents, especially in a parent conference, when you're having maybe a meeting with parents and teachers about, and it could be the academics, it could be disciplinary reasons, etc. When you have to share that information that's not so pleasant, and I'm sure any administrator worth his or her salt have been in these situations. So I hear you very loudly when you say sometimes they can go way out there where you really wish they hadn't gone, and sometimes they're not so bad. But when you have to really put your foot down, or you may have to put your feet down because one foot may not be enough, do you find in the places you've been employed support from the central office, or do you have opposition? And I ask that question in all fairness for a reason. Having been one of those fix-it principals, and when I talk about my boss, George McKenna, and I've been blessed to have, quote, turned around 3 schools along with great staffs and students that want to change. I have run into that sad situation where the very people that are supposed to be supporting you, because that's why they brought you there, are the ones that are in opposition to you. So I ask you, what would you say to situations like that? And have you been in situations like that or similar?
Yes, I have. I have been in situations like that. And in those situations that I've had, I have ended up having conversations with people regarding how I perceive their behavior. So basically, I would say, you know, this is how I'm feeling about this situation. I'm feeling as if I'm unsupported. You know, I'm feeling as if you're pushing back on what it is I feel is best for kids. You know, I'm feeling that. So I would frame it as a feeling simply, even though I might believe. Okay, it's the difference between just a feeling and a belief to me, because you know feelings kind of come and go. That belief stays. So I would frame it as a feeling to let them know that this is how I'm feeling or how I was feeling at the moment. But I want to talk to you about it because I may not be correct. You know what I'm saying? I can assume that I might not be correct. But I would like to know from you, am I correct? Basically. So to have those types of conversations has been tough. I will say timing, like everything in life, was very important. And I had to wait to have those conversations for a time where I was talking to just that person that I thought was probably the catalyst for all the other mess going on. Just talking to that person one-on-one. So I've had the opportunity, and I know some of my colleagues have not. They just get pushback, and nobody wants to talk to them. But I've had the opportunity and been fortunate enough to catch people at times where we gonna have this conversation right now. Okay, yeah, we talked about this, but can I talk to you about one more thing? You know, you got 5 minutes. You know, and I would throw it in and it would be unexpected, but I did have to wait some time to do that. And I have been in those situations. And honestly, if I know it's what's best for kids, I don't mind going to the mat. And if you don't want me here, I don't have a problem going somewhere else, you know, because I know that I'm doing what's best for kids. And if I'm not the type of person that you want here, then maybe I just don't need to be here. And Mel, and I will tell you, in those situations, I ended up staying. Uh, I don't know if it was the Lord's will
Okay.
or somebody else's. I really
Okay.
do think it was the Lord's, because those conversations I had went totally sideways. But they knew where I stood. And my superintendent at that time, the conversation got to him. So, and I stood my ground when I talked to him. So it's like, you know, if this is not the place for me, this is not the place for me. But you're going to know that you're losing a person that's really invested in kids, family, and community.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to risk losing somebody like that, then Lord help you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the end, the kids are the ones that suffer. And I hate that. I really do, because of adult issues, and adult ego and pride and everything else. But I want to be somewhere, and I want to be somewhere where I can do what I need to do for kids, allow me to work my job and do my job, and walk in my purpose. And you know what? We all gonna be good, because I'm gonna make sure everybody's good. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Wow. Well said. Well said. Well, is there a parting word you'd like to leave with our audience? Because you certainly have been getting thumbs up and hearts going up all night, so you definitely have been bringing the pain, and they certainly are enjoying you. Are there any parting words you'd like to leave with us before we sign off?
Well, I just like to thank everybody for joining. I don't necessarily know how this interview came about.
Would you
I
you
know
like to
that
know?
I was asked, and I
Would you like to
agreed,
know?
because I
Would you
love
like to
to
know?
talk about education.
Would you like to know how it came about?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm going to tell you and our audience, our first time hearing this as well. Because I consider myself to be blessed to be a quintessential educator. I look for people that are like-minded, that can share honest, individual, research-based, personal proof as to how we can help our children. And that's exactly when I started looking you up and seeing the kind of work you do. And that I said, wow, this sister is someone I need to have on the show. So that's how you came about me inviting you to be on the show, because I saw the kind of work that you do, and I was gleaning from the information that kind of dedication had to be there. And I peeped in there and did a little more research. I said, I have to have this sister on the show. That's so.
Well, I thank you. It was divine intervention.
Most certainly. Most certainly. Most
But I want to
certainly.
thank everybody for joining. This is totally fun. This is my thing. I love talking to people about education. So I've enjoyed myself this evening. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
Well, listen, you're more than welcome, and this certainly will not be the last time. I also do civic dinners. It's not my invention. There's a national movement going on called civic dinners, where they have different topics about racism and hatred and all this kind of thing, and I conduct those as well. And I certainly want to be inviting you back for that, and to the show. We also do educational shows as well, and I mentioned Dr. McKenna already, and so sometimes I'll have on the gurus, what I call the gurus, and we just talk education and that kind of thing, because I feel very strongly, and our audience know me. I have and I thank God for you. I have a really solid audience, and education, especially coming from people that look like us, and for them to be able to hear someone articulate and share information and lay it out there and just make it plain, is very important in today's society, and it's been that way for a long time, especially for our kids and for our adults and that kind of thing. So, Dr. Johnson, it's a pleasure having you here. We're just so happy and so grateful that you were kind enough to come on and to share with us. And I'll certainly be staying in touch. As a matter of fact, as we talk about education, and this is your show, not mine, but I just finished a last publication called Just an Ordinary George, 846. Your denial is your conscience. And I want to send you a synopsis of this book because it talks about life, and it talks about humanitarianism and that kind of thing. So when I research people like Dr. Jerri Johnson, then that gets my interest because you, Dr. Jerri Johnson, are ordained to do what you do. And when you have the guts to stand up and say point blankly, I like being here, I should be here. However, if you have trepidations about me being here, see you later. And you know, you don't have many people that have enough guts to stand up and do that, and you've already said it, and the children lose.
They don't.
And that's great. So listen, I'm just going on because I love talking to energetic people that have something to say. So I'll certainly be in touch, and you feel free to do the same. But I will send you a synopsis of this book. I'd like to know your thoughts on it, and I would love to continue talking with you. I do consulting, by the way, and as you were talking about administrators, I have to tell you this before we get off. I can't tell you how many times I have worked with aspiring administrators and seasoned administrators, and they just don't get all the things that you've talked about the commitment, about the perseverance, about doing things for children and understanding that your purpose is there for the children. And even though, yes, you may be there at the pleasure of the superintendent because he's the one that signs your check, but you are there for the children. And you wouldn't be surprised because I can tell by talking with you, but a lot of people are surprised at how many people in our business have no clue of why they're there other than to have a title and a check.
There you go.
Yes.
That title, boy, that title gets people every time.
It does. Have a title and a check. So listen, I again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Dr. Jerri Johnson, this has been indeed a great pleasure. And we are so happy that you decided to come to the Nobody Asked Me Guy show and join the host, Melvin Casey Lars. And we're just happy to be here. I'm just going to remind you one last time, when you get the opportunity, look up Dr. George McKenna. I'd like to hook you up. Dr. McKenna is a phenomenal gentleman. And let me tell you, he's something else. And he is a mentor that I could, in my wildest dream, I got to tell you this. I thought I was going to Los Angeles to play professional football. Got released from the team, needed a job, went to LA Unified School District, and the rest is history. Had never heard of Dr. McKenna. He had never heard of me. He sat me down. He interviewed, hired me on the spot. The rest is history. So when you talk about divine intervention and your purpose and that kind of thing, I can attest to that, and that's why I appreciate Dr. Jerri Johnson.
Yes. I appreciate you.
Listen, you have a great night, Dr. Johnson. It's been great talking with you.